Let's get it
Right.
rolling.
Bulletproof Ballers Q&A episode 2. On the weekends we do on Saturday Q&A, on Sunday a podcast. Tomorrow we're going to be doing the podcast today as a Q&A. We've got a few questions lined up off Instagram. Five or six questions. Last time we went a bit overboard. I think we only answered like 2 or 3 because we were just going hard on it. So we're going to try and like make it succinct, make it actionable today. So yeah, Kadeem, what are you saying?
Yeah, we're ready. Like this is huge. I think we should just jump straight into the first question, man. A really interesting one. Obviously, I think both me and you got is the one with the hamstring tendon strain, but generally, hamstring injuries and what's actually happening there. I think we can touch on that broadly because it could affect people that not only have struggled with an hamstring injury, but generally knee injuries. So yeah, let's go there.
Yeah, so obviously, yeah, like you say, like hamstring tendon, hamstring muscle belly, hamstring fascia, hamstring graft after an ACL injury. It's all kind of obviously that there's 3 different hamstrings in the back there. So obviously each one you can kind of rehab slightly differently. Like the standing packet is going to hit more of the inner one and stuff like that. But first thing is like, cool, let's just look at the hamstring as a whole. So 2 functions: knee flexion, hip extension. Those are the 2 functions of the hamstring. It joins just below the knee. It goes down the back of the knee and just joins just below the knee for the tendon area there. So the tendon's like behind the knee. Then you have the hamstring tendon at the top as well, and you have it where it extends the hip at the top. When we're looking at actually rehabbing something, we then use the short to long range principles in that type of stuff. And I made a whole video on how to get rid of tight calves, tight hamstrings, and tight hips. And it's the same kind of principles. It's really, really good. So the first thing that we do when there's an area that has some kind of injury, some kind of pain, whatever it is, weakness, is we get loads of work there. We want to build that mind to muscle connection back, and we do that through the short range stuff. So we get loads of blood flow, get loads of circulation. The best way to be able to do this, especially if it's the hamstring graft, hamstring tendon right in the back of the knee, so it's going to be the lower stuff, so it's going to be that knee flexion stuff. Banded hamstring curls, 50 to 300 reps is going to be that starting point, which I would say. And then you want to, at the same time as that, just after, once it's warm, it wants to be, if it's tolerated, really light long range. So this means maybe some super short elephant walks. This means maybe some back extension if it's tolerated, probably not to absolutely start with, but that kind of thing where you're getting that lengthening after you get loads of blood in there. So those going to be the starting point there for the healing. You got anything to say on the healing portion before we go into that, like long-term kind of bulletproofing?
Nah, that's it. Like healing is all about rejuvenating, making the hamstring feel better. Like initially you won't be able to do loads and it's totally okay. The most important thing is that you're doing something, that you're getting the blood flow there, and that you keep moving the area. You don't just, elevate it or just rest it. Like keep moving it.
Like that.
Exactly. And that's good. Like rejuvenating, that's what it's all about really.
Yeah.
Getting the blood flow there, getting it feel good. And then the big part is really going to be the rebuilding. Right. We could get into that quickly as well, I think.
Yeah. I mean that whole thing that you're talking about there goes back to our 3R system, which we use for most injuries, which is that okay. First thing is rejuvenation. Second thing is then rebuilding the area, and then the third thing is then the return to sport. 3Rs right there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you want to think about it of like, okay, first we get healing, first we get blood flow to the air with that rejuvenation phase, and we just talked about that. The rebuild is then, okay, we actually rebuild the capacity in our hamstrings in whatever way that it needs to be. So obviously, like I say, we have those 3 different hamstring muscles. So we want to build strength in all of them. The best way to start doing this is obviously knee extension, hip extension. The two gentlest for this is going to be actual hamstring curls. So once we are feeling good, like we're getting that blood flow back, in the knee flexion, in the banded hamstring curls, we want to go for 8, 12, 15 reps on like a hamstring curl machine at whatever light weight that doesn't hurt. So again, we don't want to push for any pain, but we do want to start rebuilding the strength there. Then for the hip extension side of stuff, the thing that I really like, obviously elephant walks can still work in this stage, but the back extension is really good for hitting that kind of back of the knee, tugging the hamstrings, and it's less of a breakdown than something like an RDL, because an RDL is like that extreme long range, and that's where we want to really rebuild to over time. It's like, okay, we're working up all the ranges, getting the tension back in the hamstring and being able to handle that tension.
Yeah, and you'd be like, people will be surprised about how much more they can work up to within a workout if they start with the short range, if they start with pumping up the area, slowly working up to that, then maybe going into hamstring curls, then from there going into something that's a little bit more long range back extension, and then
Yeah,
even
and
the
then
RDLs, Nordics, all that stuff. We wanna get into it. Like for the hamstrings, there's loads of stuff you can do even without equipment. Like if you don't have a hamstring curl machine available, like there is different, hamstring swoops or whatever, like you do from the floor. You know what I mean? Where you're kind of laying on the back. It's important to get that muscle contraction back there, but then like I would be aiming as soon as possible. Obviously, not rushing it, but like getting into Nordics is what changed the game for my hamstrings. To be honest.
yeah, but you do want to work there. Like I like to have people work up to like 50% body weight on the hamstring curl machine, lying leg curl, at least probably before they go into that. And then I even like people going on to the 2 up, 1 down, because that Nordic is a lot of eccentric and you won't get that loading in the right position unless you have a Nordic bench where you incline the bench. You won't get that loading in that very position which we want to. So the best way to be able to start getting into that is one, building your hamstring curl with double leg, and then starting the 2 up, 1 down. So you bring the concentric up with 2 legs, and then you lower 1 down. And like I say, the Nordic's very eccentric heavy, so it's just getting us used to that overloading eccentric phase. And when you go into the Nordics, like that is going to be the long term bulletproof over time. For the knee flexion, like Nordics are the long range, and then for the hip extension, you then have the RDLs. So that's where you're going to want to work to over time. Is that extreme long range stuff. Like the two like main, even a third, like I'm going to add is the Jefferson curl.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say that one as
So
well.
so those three for like the hamstrings, especially if we're just talking about that way. But then you have like the inner hamstrings. People are so tight there, especially like footballers. And you could think like, oh, it's a groin thing, it's a hamstring thing, whatever. And it could be completely a different area than what you think. So we want to get all these areas strong. We don't just want to get one. On the hamstring curl machine, we can turn our toes out, we can turn our toes in, and that's going to hit different bellies of the hamstring. And then you also have like the standing pancake is going to be the long range for that inner hamstring as well, which is super, super hard to hit. And it's super like, you'll feel like a tearing sensation.
Yeah.
Anything else there on that bulletproof insider stuff?
Now, I think if you rebuild that, as you said, main thing is going to be building back that strength. But then before we go back, hamstring injuries. It's obviously we want to get the hamstrings itself stronger, but also longer, right? Really, really that building that strength through length, and that's going to be Jefferson curl, RDLs, Nordics. That's the three main ones you want to get really, really good at. Like even single leg, then like go single
Yeah.
leg because you probably have imbalances from side to side. Do single leg RDLs, single leg, pike pulses, stuff like that, and to really make sure you rebalance as well.
Yeah, yeah, and those standards we want to look at over time, and then obviously for that return to sport phase, it's then like we don't just want to hit standards and think, okay, yeah, because we're strong in the weight room, that's just going to translate to my hamstring being fine on the pitch. Like what you want to do is like obviously there's no real activity that kind of hits the hamstrings as much as sprinting does, right? Like no matter how many Nordics you do, no matter how many like all this long range stuff, like but the stronger you get in the Nordics and the RDLs and the Jefferson curls and the single leg Jefferson curls and that stuff, like you are going to be more resilient and it's definitely going to have more. Yeah, I'm just going to use the word resilient because people get annoyed, but
Yeah,
you'll be more resilient towards the sprinting, towards the pliers and stuff like that. But you still have to build up the sprinting, still have to build up the pliers, and really start to absorb that fast twitch stuff of like, okay, sprinting is super like you're touching the ground and you're in that long range position, you're just boom, it's like that. So then plyos, building up your sprints, 50%, 60%, 70%, and working back into the return sport as well is really how like the whole hamstring cycle would go.
yeah, exactly. I think that wraps it up really well. Return back to sport safely, if not like the whole rehab was kind of for nothing if you go back too soon and then injure yourself again. So yeah, that's it. I think that's really in depth there. So good one on that one, the hamstring one.
Yeah, I kind of took over on that one. I got big
Yeah, it's
sound of
just
that.
like you want people to know this stuff. Like it's the more you know, really the obviously, and then being able to apply that knowledge as well.
Yeah.
That's the key.
And the thing is there is like you also want to do learning around this. So it's like some of the principles that we probably said there probably was like, well, you're talking about long range, short range, this and that. So it's like the more you watch our videos, the more you understand what we're talking about, the better it is. Listen to what we just said over and over and over again. You're going to learn more stuff, learn more stuff, learn more stuff.
Yep, 100%. Nice. So you got a question there for me, or I
Yeah,
got
I got a good one that I want to talk about
yeah.
with the football. Like
Go on.
I've had this question a bunch of times from a bunch of people, and it's just one that tricks people up. It's the how to increase stamina or endurance for
Oh yeah,
football.
yeah,
And yeah, you want to talk about that one?
yeah. How do you like in the end? Well, like with stamina, obviously we think with let's say football, we look at like statistics. Okay, people are running 10K 10 kilometers, a game and stuff like even more than that. And then you think, okay, I have to do 10-kilometer run or, 5-kilometer run and stuff like that. It's also things I used to do. And the thing is there, like, if you look more into the research, and once I started learning more, listening to Charles Poliquin, for example, has an amazing podcast about this, where he talks about, okay, like if you actually look at the thing that happens in football, people are covering the distance mostly by either like light jogging or these repetitive sprints, in fatigued kind of states. So I think a good one to increase endurance in football is to sprint in fatigue states. Another thing then obviously we need to touch on is like just your strength that you have, strength in comparison to your body weight, right? Your relative strength. The easier you can propel yourself forward there, overcome inertia, it's loads of acceleration in football. The easier that's for you, the easier it's going to be as well to maintain that over 90 minutes. And if you have like if you're 80% of running is someone else's 100%, then you're not using as much energy and you're going to last longer as well. So I think these are kind of the three main things to look at. So how do
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's you've definitely hit the right points there. Of like the best way, like I didn't do any long distance running for 5 years, and I was out of football. I didn't do a single bit. So then I came back, and how am I? Obviously, it's Sunday, Saturday league, whatever it is. But still, like I haven't played. I haven't done any long distance running. I haven't done anything like that. I came back, and like I'm lasting the full 90 minutes. I'm absolutely fine, and I'm like chilling. Everyone else is like kind of like gassed out, this and that. So there's a few things there that you obviously talked about. Is like the first thing that we want to do is that maximal strength, right? So it's like the higher you get your strength, especially in football, because no one's doing this. Everyone just thinks skill, 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 and it is a lot of skill. You want to do that at the same time, but no one is training like they are in America for the NFL or whatever. Like Charles Poliquin says, we're 20, 30 years behind in terms of strength training. Like you look at someone like Traore of like he's so fast. Like if like you say, like 80%, his 80% is like but Bush gets like 400%. So it's like, who's going to last longer in the match? It's probably going to be Traore because he's literally like walking to the extent that Bush gets is sprinting. But that's one thing. The other thing is obviously like you say, relative strength, and relative strength is that okay. Strength goes up, and then your body weight comes down. So how lean are you? Like I told this guy the other day, he's like, I'm doing 5K runs, but I'm bulking and this and that. And I was like, what percentage body fat are you? He was like, 20%. I'm like, you're playing football, 20% body fat. Like, no wonder you're gassing out. Like, shred the fat. If you've got any non-functional mass, like, depends how high up you are in football and how serious you're taking it. But like, Charles Poliquin again says under 8% is like what you want for pro footballer. So that's a few things there. And yeah, test your 40-yard dash, test your max bar, and then increase your strength. Nordics are going to be really good. A lot of like obviously hamstring, posterior chain is going to be there for sprinting, but then you need to balance that out with all of your other stuff lower down the body because it's no good building all that power and strength and then getting injured.
Yeah, and then one last thing, like just being able to play football to your max when you're playing it. That's gonna be like what actually translate to it the best because that's what you're doing. So you're building that maximal strength. You're obviously what we're really about as well, that joint dominance, that joint health, having no pain and all that stuff is going to help that you can go 100% when you're playing football and actually gas yourself out. Like in the trainings, don't just see it as okay, it's a training, I don't have to go 100%. Well, then you're also not going to be to go 100% in the match. So in the training, actually try and go full out and get the actual adaptations from that as well because you've built up all that other stuff in your training around it.
Definitely. So yeah, I think that kind of answered that one quite succinctly.
Yeah, yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. Another one I got is like any exercises I do daily for joint health. And this is interesting because he asked specifically daily. And obviously, you can't jump into, well, you probably could, but like into, it's not recommended, jump into polyquin step ups, like really joint dominant stuff every single day. So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I want to touch on a little bit more here, obviously you can give your opinion after that as well, but something that was really enlightening kind of to me in terms of joint health is not just always the heavy stuff we're doing, because that's maybe 1 hour a day. What about the other 23 hours a day that we have? What positions do we put our joints in there? Like, what can we kind of make the, where can we kind of make the passive gains? And it's really, I'm working on the floor most of the time, so I'm getting into these resting positions that actually are shown to kind of realign your lower body. If you look at, like some cultures, for example, my grandfather in Senegal, he got that joint health in his knees, in his ankles, that mobility, because he was sitting in a deep squat every single day for not just 1-2 minutes, but actually hours, right? And it's actually nature's gift to kind of preserve our joint health. Obviously, as athletes, we need to then get more into the strengthening effect as well. But daily stuff you can do is really resting position, sitting in a deep squat, Seiza pose, plantar fascia stretch, camel position, all that stuff, just relaxing there, and having your joints really get into positions you would never put them in
yeah.
otherwise.
Yeah, so obviously that question answered definitely amazing. Like that's, you pretty much touched on like mobility, right? Because people think like mobility has to be okay. I'm gonna go in the gym and I'm gonna do the specific thing for mobility, and it has to be maybe loaded or it has to like break down the tissues or something like that. Mobility literally just means like going into certain positions and like keeping it there. Like deep squat, it's mobility training because ankles, knees, like all different kinds of stuff are using their full range of motion. And again, like Kadeem says, it was a resting position. And then you come, so yeah, mobility every day, all the time. Like, people ask like, how many times a week should I do mobility? Like every hour. Depends on the volume. Like, are you doing a heavy bodyweight Jefferson curl, or are you just like sitting in a deep squat and Caesar? Okay, well, depends. And then you have like, okay, where is your joint health currently? Obviously, if someone's joint health is pretty like bad, like you don't want to just chuck yourself into positions. It's again that progressive overload. You can't just start sitting in a deep squat for an hour a day if you've never sat in a deep squat before. Like that's gonna hurt or something like that. So the easiest stuff is then again like the short range positions of mobility. So to get the every single day, like you can do some kind of short range activity for like band and knee extensions. I like flossing, but you don't have to do that every day. But like the band and knee extensions, sled, something like that, where you can blood flow to your knee. For training wise, in terms of like the mobility, is like sit in a deep squat, but sit at your kind of level that you can sit in and sit for a minute, 2 minutes, and then sit in a pigeon for like 30 seconds. But at the thing that doesn't cause you pain or is at your level. So it's like there's a lot of things that can be done.
Yeah, yeah, and this could really like go on for 4 hours, but that's it. Like, keep it simple. Like, any exercise you could do daily for joint health, if you're able to do it, like the deep knee bending, getting into different positions on the floor, resting positions, is going to be huge. And then obviously weekly you want to do the strengthening as well, and all that stuff. But I think, yeah, that's,
Yeah, I think like for most people, like strengthening the knees in an actual session twice a week, amazing. And then like just doing the mobility stuff, like sitting in certain positions, being more conscious. Like not everyone can do that at work, but like imagine like okay, you spend 9 hours sitting in the chair at work. Like I remember when I was sitting in certain things at school and stuff like that, and my knee would actually hurt more because you're sitting in like one position, it's that bend position or whatever. So it's like when you get home, instead of again sitting and watching Netflix, like do something else, like move around, maybe even like sit in a certain position if you do still want to watch Netflix. Is what it is.
yeah, 100%. That's it. Keep the
Yeah,
movement in.
yeah,
Yeah, I got one more. Have you got any more?
yeah. I got one more, just an easy one.
Okay, let's go for the easy one, and then we finish with the one.
Easy one. So, what are the best exercises to strengthen very weak knees? It's one of the questions I get the most often. It's like I have a few videos on that, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, the main thing with very weak knees is like, where can you start? Like, what can you start with, and then where can you progress? So yeah, like bend and knee extensions. Maybe you start very weak knees just to get the blood flow backwards. Go into some variation of a really short range step up from the floor, whatever. isometric holds, then try and progress into longer ranges with, regress variations as well. And literally, you have tons of videos on that. Same for
Yeah.
me as well.
Yeah, I would say like we want people to really understand the frameworks, because if you understand the frameworks, then you're rolling. Same thing with the hamstring injury we talked about earlier. It's like, okay, if I'm very weak knees, that means I should probably start in that rejuvenation phase. What does rejuvenation mean? It means get life back to the area. It means get blood. It means get circulate stuff. It means get heat there. Get it feeling good again. Rejuvenate that area. So that's the first stage we want to start, and Kadeem said it there with the band and knee extensions, isometrics, concentric only movements, like the stuff that doesn't really break down the tissue but gets loads of circulation, loads of heat to the knees. You want to look at your diet as well. Obviously, exercises are one thing, and everyone wants exercises, but it's a lifestyle, really. You want to do the training, you want to become healthy, like you want to eat the right stuff, and that's definitely going to help. Then it's like the heat. So it's like start using heat packs. The blood flow also is providing heat. And then you have Epsom salt baths, even saunas, that kind of stuff, which can help as well. And that's all in that rejuvenation phase that we talk about quite a lot. And then you then go into the rebuild stage from there, whether it be the step up, split squats, hamstring curls, whatever it is from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Highly recommended to watch the videos to understand the foreign points and all that stuff. The regressions is going to be key. But yeah, that's it. Obviously, taking everything into consideration, like weak knees. Obviously, it's then below your knees. You're maybe also weak behind your knees, above your knees, all that stuff, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Long topic.
yeah, really low. You could, yeah, exactly. So yeah, last one I got is, yeah, what can you? Someone got an ankle sprain now. What can you do to stay away from another one, like from actually, like probably most people that had an ankle sprain experienced the second one as well. Like it's kind of a quite common experience. So how can you actually stay away from another?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And like you say, people that do get one, like they are more likely to have another one. But it doesn't mean you have to have another one. The second thing is like, okay, ankle joints are weaker than other joints like knee joints, hip joints, something like that, because they're smaller. So it's like, okay, yeah, we want to become super, super resilient, and we can definitely do that. And I'll let Kadeem go through like the stages again with the rejuvenation and stuff. Just hammer that one home today with 3 different areas of the body. But talking about like, okay, this make it more resilient. But it's also, even if we do get an ankle sprain again, if we make it super strong and super resilient, the benefit is that we're going to come back super, super fast. Like I've had many ankle sprains, and it maybe hurt me for like a little bit, maybe a day. Maybe I didn't. I literally just done some flossing when I got home, and then it's like gone away fine. But it's like the quicker we can rebound from that, that's really the benefit, and not have it start affecting our rest of our body or have it again or whatever. So then it comes into like the actual actionables, and I'll let you go ahead with that one.
Yeah, like because that's really good. The thing of, okay, trying to minimize, not only the risk of injury, but if an injury happens, the risk, the minimize the damage that's happening. And it's like easy with an ankle sprain, or like with if you just roll your ankle, okay, swells up for a little bit, like it's hurting. It's easy to just, like rest for a week, numb the pain, tape it like hard, and go and play through it.
And
And like if you take ankle rehab as seriously as you would maybe take an ACL rehab, let's just say, to kind of over, like if you take ankle rehab as seriously as you take an ACL rehab, that number of, like repetitive ankle injuries would go down so much. But people initially think, okay, it's just an ankle injury. I could, do some rehab quickly, tape it up, and go play again. But it actually needs to be taken seriously. Like it's your foundation and the first step. Obviously, after an injury, rejuvenating, floss band.
rejuvenation.
Yeah, floss band. Like stay tuned for day 4 of the Bulletproof Truth tomorrow. Gonna
Yeah,
talk
I've
about,
actually got a good story about the ankle sprain. Actually, I was listening to an old Ben podcast,
yeah,
and he was talking about like the best methods for like, ankle sprains and stuff like that. And he obviously in basketball, you have those fat shoes on, and then you land on someone's ankle, and your ankle gets rolled. I remember him saying like he got an ankle sprain, and for the next few days he done like 1,000 calf raises in like it was like a water thing that he just had by his sofa, and he was just doing seated calf raises like really short range in like this hot Epsom salt bath thing, and he was just every single hour just doing like 100 reps, and it's like
yeah.
people don't understand how like what rejuvenation actually means if you want to take it to the extremes.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. If you want to take it to the extremes, and you're doing the right thing, obviously, then like your body literally your body can do magic. It's amazing like how resilient your ankles can actually get if you expose them to those prone positions. Most of the time we see the ankle sprains happening, obviously rolling to the outside most of the time. And like if you get strong in a lateral ankle drill there, really challenging yourself, actually feeling that, you're gonna get so much more resilient, and you're gonna, as you said, minimize the damage if you get into another one again. But yeah, also a huge topic that we could, talk about, foot health and then the stability. But like if you got one right now, take it seriously, rejuvenate, rebuild it, take into consideration like what's in front of the ankle, tib raises, calf raises, isometrics, ankle rotations, rebuild, and then slowly ramp up your plyometrics, calf jumps, go into more explosive ones, Masai jumps, stuff like that, lateral ones as well. And then you'd be better off than most people.
Yeah, this is like this has been a really, really productive podcast in terms of that framework of the rejuvenation, rebuild, return to sport. It's so good. Like anyone watching this, like whatever injury you have, whatever you just think about it like that. Okay, I'm just fresh off this. What do I need to do? Okay, rejuvenate. Okay, what does that mean? Well, like we've been through blood flow, heat, all this kind of stuff, bring it back to life. Then we start to rebuild, and then not only do we don't just go rebuild. Okay, I'm back playing football. It's rebuild, then return to sport. If you hit every single three of those, and in the right way, like you're going to be rolling.
Yep. 100%. That's it. I think that's a good. That's the main. That was probably the main topic of this Q&A, and it's like regarding injuries and getting back to sport. Like that's the framework. The 3 R's. Yeah, huge stuff. Nice. Banger. See you next time.